then it means the risk of that particular province becomes higher. And that could actually affect the attraction of an investor to go there because the risk is high. So these are some of the things that are behind. So the occupancy rate, as I say, is 85% at Fort Jackson because the infrastructure is is good there, it's better than in Dimbaza. In Dimbaza, the occupancy rate is very low. In Queenstown, it's low. And it's simple, it's on the basis of the factors of infrastructure, electricity, roads not being there. But they are better in Fort Jackson, they are better in Valencia.
How bad in Dimbaza?
Of course, it's a semi-rural area place. I mean, the electricity is not at the level at which factories can perform. I mean, I may not be able to go into detail exactly what is the level of electricity and all those things.
But generally, the percentage, as we have said, in Fort Jackson is 85%, and the occupancy rate in Dimbaza.
In Dimbaza is very, very low. I'm sure it's about. I'm going to speculate here because I don't have the figures, so I don't want to give a number.
Actually, Butterworth and Dimbaza are well below your 35% generally. Those were your subsidized border industries for the homelands. And when changes came, I want to believe that they were just abandoned in many ways. We are having serious discussions with the provincial government on how to, revive, rehabilitate those, because most of them just, are lying there, not being used for anything. So those are two worst affected areas for the properties under ECDC.
Thank you, Chairperson. And the last one for me is the geographic spread. Yes, the geographic spread is not maybe fairly distributed. One would actually immediately say, well, the pipeline of projects that come as per demand, then we address what has come to us or what is viable in a particular area. However, we also note that in some far-lying areas, it's also because of access. There are transaction costs for entrepreneurs or businesses to travel from where they are to get funding from ECDC's offices, wherever they are. Now, our response is not to actually, our response has been measured. We have opened satellite offices in some areas. For instance, if you go to Alwal North and there are some satellite offices trying to start to spread the outreach. But however, it's not only that issue only. When you spread the outreach, you must also spread the services and decision making closer there. It's something that we are working on, and our strategy, as I said earlier, is to take funding that is below, say, 250,000 for small business and micro entrepreneurs, and structure it in a special vehicle, and take those vehicles and put them closer to the area where small businesses come from. Rather than centralizing everything here and everybody now has to travel and spend transaction cost and their opportunity cost and all sorts of things. So it's something that is being discussed at board level to move with that direction, to mitigate this risk of access.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Let me deal with the question of on write-offs. The ECDC didn't write off any debts in the financial year under review. The last write-off was done in 2007. But let me further go on and explain what is usually confused with write-offs. There is an accounting jargon, the concept they call impairment allowances. Impairment allowances is a provision that we make that a loanee might not be able to repay ECDC, which means we make an estimation every year as to what is the value that might not be returned back to ECDC by the loanees. And in the current financial year, that number is sitting at about 62 million. That's a calculation of what is the possibility that some of the loanees might not repay ECDC. If you think about it, in a tough economic environment, we would be more conservative in terms of our numbers. We'll increase our estimation because we're seeing that the economic environment is tough. But once the economic environment becomes better, you see that the businesses are doing well. Their ability to service their loans improves.
Thank you. In fact, if you look at ABSA, Standard Bank, and the big four banks, and look at their annual report and the impairment rates, they talk billions there. So the financial sector has been the hardest hit, especially those entities that give loans. And impairment doesn't mean you have lost the money, it simply means those who are paying are not doing as well to pay on time and so forth, so it would still be recovered. And welcome to the other journalists who arrived. So, any other questions? Yes.
Okay, let me direct this to you, Doctor. You just mentioned that you've been engaging with government when it comes to improving infrastructure in places like projects in Barawa. Could you briefly explain that what kind of intervention are you, what kind of engagement are you having with the government, what kind of intervention are you expecting from them in order to improve these places you mentioned?
Actually, it goes beyond even putting a few things there in terms of the infrastructure, but rather a strategy to say the border industries that were created for the homeless, what must be done in order to rehabilitate them? What incentive structures would you put in place, let's say if a foreign investor was coming from China, from US, from Germany and so forth? Because it's not as attractive as being in East London, where you are next to the port, or in PE and so forth. So an incentive structure is also needed for such. So those engagements, I wouldn't actually be presumptuous and come to the conclusions, because we're still engaged in saying what ECDC wants to put in and what government wants to put in. And of course, in terms of the tax regimes or incentive structures, you would need government to make a pronouncement on that. So we wouldn't make headlines scream right now before they have, we have all agreed as partners and the role players as to how that is approached. Yes.
Sorry, just on that question, I'm interested in it in terms of time frames, because I took from the former homeland, and Zimbabwe's quite dire at the moment. I mean, how much longer will it continue? How long do you think you'll be engaging with government on this kind of process? Is it something maybe in 2 years' time we can see it flourishing again?
Let me take that question and take 3 others, because I think I violated my own rules by answering one question instead of 3. We will surely answer that one. Any other questions? And surely a province with so many developmental challenges like the Eastern Cape, you will have questions even during the tea break, I'm sure. But right now, I think let's just go straight to that one. In our strategy in Daba, where the MEC, the officials from the government came, we raised this as one of the most urgent issues, and we really appreciate the sense that they've come back and signaled that they take this quite seriously. And we even urge them to take it into their own cabinet, Lekotla, or the ruling party's own, forum where they talk about the priorities. So we expect a response to that sooner than 2 years. That's our own wish. You might have seen that Bisho did receive some injection because Bisho, we thought by moving administration there it would flourish with King, and somehow East London became a beneficiary. So those are some of the dilemmas that one has to face. But again, this coincided with the time when the global economic situation was not looking well in terms of attracting your investors. But the hope, the emerging markets are the ones which are still performing better than the well-established markets. So one hopes that the IPSA, the BRIC, and you know what could be the BRICSA with South Africa, Russia, China, and so forth. Those are some of the arrangements where we can make an impression to say, here is a space. But again, it doesn't only depend on the external, but our own South African internal investors would also be attracted to that space. But within 2 years, you should be seeing something.
Thanks a lot. I know that some people might want to have one-on-one discussions or interviews. We will have that time, and would like to invite everyone to stay and join us for lunch. It will be ready at 12:30. We went through quite quickly in the proceedings. I think we anticipated more questions and discussions, but it's fine. I know some of you guys might require that. And yeah, we will just have that networking session and questions. If you want, you can just let me know. And then at 12:30, if you can all just join us for lunch. Thank you very much for coming through, and yeah, that's
Thank you.